All right, we are recording Tom. This is Tom Kubiniec. He is a CEO of a very fast-growing company. You're on the Inc. 5000 list, I believe, which is some of the fastest growing private companies in the country. You are the founder, CEO, visionary leader, and it's called SecureIt Tactical Inc. You've got an awesome, interesting background. We're going to get into all of that today about what you did before, how you got to where you are, what you're doing now, and just have a fun conversation. I'm really looking forward to it. Welcome, Tom.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, it's been I always tell people, I didn't have a path. I just kept turning over rocks and seeing where it led me.
That's awesome. I want to hear about that because we started to talk a little bit off air about it. I said, let's just record because this sounds like a really interesting journey. But let's just briefly start with an intro of kind of where we are today and what SecureIt Tactical is. What I know about it is you do weapons, guns, firearms, weapons storage systems for the public sector, meaning us, commercial, residential type of stuff, as well as the defense industry, where you guys are, I think, quite a leader in that space as well. So does that position what you do?
Yeah, we started off in the defense industry building armories. I started that in 2002. And by 2008, we were the largest supplier to the U.S. military. It's a small niche market. It's a market we own. We have a patented system that they just love. And we now globally, we build armories all over the world. Again, it is a niche market. Our big growth right now is in the consumer civilian market. We've taken our cradle grid technology, our military system, and adapted it into cabinets for home use. And we're really taking on the gun safe industry with a whole different mindset that we bring from, we're not in the consumer. We were in that military arena for so long. We're bringing that mindset. And, I always say what works for the military works for civilians, and it works very well. And it's that growth in the retail side that's driving the company sales right now. That's got us in Inc. 5000. That's got us as this just really rapid trajectory of growth.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, congrats on the Inc. 5000. That's a huge recognition. So this has got to be this is pretty interesting, right? To disrupt any sort of industry, come along with new technology or disruptive approach. And I want to get into that and kind of how you got here very creatively, which probably talks about why you're a disruptor. But I do think this is a really important conversation. What we cover on this podcast, it spans so many different things, but ultimately it's about that journey for self-improvement, self-betterment in life in all kinds of ways. Right. And clearly there's lots of data out there that says a lot of people are interested and have been for the last few years. Firearm sales are up dramatically. People who are interested in lots of different ways to get better at being secure, being safe, protecting themselves, protecting their families. So, sometimes in the show we talk about money, sometimes we talk about breath, sometimes all kinds of stuff. This one's different. I'm excited to have you on to talk about this because it's clearly an important topic for a lot of people who are buying firearms. And a big part of that is knowing how to use it proficiently and safely, and then storing it safely and having access to it safely. But before we get there, so let's start back with what you were doing when you lived out in LA, something very different than running a fast company.
Yeah. I graduated high school in a little town of Batavia, New York, near Buffalo. And I was playing in bands as a guitar player since I was probably 16. And I graduated high school and pursued music. I played all over the East Coast. In 1984, Guitar Player magazine did an article on me as a young up and coming, one of the best unknown guitar players out there who was, that's all I did was play. I moved to LA and started
back when there were magazines.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Guitar Player magazine was the magazine of the time. And I moved out to LA. I attended Musicians Institute, which was a one-year vocational, very intense music school, played with a lot of people. Did some instructional videos, had something, just started getting going, and I developed tendonitis so bad in my arms I had to stop playing professionally. And it was a tough year, but it forced me to, had to do something. I took a job telemarketing computer supplies in this cruddy little company. It's great boss, little company. He was just getting it started. He's actually gone on to build a $100 million a year B2B office and business supply company. but he got me started in sales. 2 years into that job, I quit with two others. We started our own business, telemarketing computer supplies, in an apartment. Our offices were little cardboard boxes. Every morning, you pull a cardboard box out. That was your office with a telephone, and you start calling businesses. Yeah. And just ground away at it. We had no money. We lived on rice and beans. And
this is like late 80s, maybe?
Is this this is 1987, 87, 88, okay. Right around there.
So quick one on the music industry before we jump past that. So mid late 80s, LA. What style of music were you playing? And like, were you coming up?
At that time, I was a metalhead. I had hair down past my waist. It was yeah.
So were you? Yeah, were you coming up with other guitarists that have continued in the industry and hit it big?
I could tell you some funny stories there. I used to play with Paul Gilbert a lot back in the day. He was a Mr. Big. There were a bunch of guys. I mean, Guns N' Roses were unsigned. We considered them dirtbags. Yeah. We called them Guns and Posers. I remember a visual of Slash. It's 2:00 in the afternoon. We're all sitting around a pool of the Royal, the apartment building next to ours. This is not a great street. This is cheap living. Those guys were there, and there's Slash with the stupid hat on, and people swimming in the pool. He just unzipped it and says peeing in the pool. And we were just started laughing, but we had no respect for these guys. And there are a lot of guys like that, though. But then their album came out. I heard it, and I was just like, "Oh my God, these guys are going to be huge!" And
yeah, that would have been Appetite for Destruction was probably
I think that was the first. Again, I wasn't a big Guns N' Roses guy at the time. You had Motley Crue was on the street. Guns N' Roses or Poison was the first glam band. We had no respect for those guys. They were dressed like a bunch of girls. It was pretty funny. It was
it's fun times, I'm sure. And then I was kind of chuckling to myself when you're talking about pulling out the cardboard box and telemarketing.
Right.
I took a telemarketing job a little bit late, maybe like 90, 91, where, same kind of deal, right? Just open the phone book and call. And we were selling installed car phones, right? So out of like a stereo radio shop. Hey, cell phones are the next big thing, guys. Like there was the brick phone, there was a flip phone. Like, we're going to install this thing in your car. Come on in, we'll install it. You take it for a test drive. If you don't like it, we'll take it back out. I don't know if anybody ever uninstalled a car phone. Right. So I love that, right? Just picking up the phone and getting past that fear and making those phone calls.
I'll tell you what, it is intensive sales training because you're literally making 100 calls a day, and you either develop skin like an alligator, or we used to hire a lot of people because you'd go through so many. And we had on the company's the employee folder, there was a RS. We put on a folder for some people, and that was ran screaming. And that's people who came in, and before lunch of their first day, they just disappeared because they just couldn't handle it. You could get beat up. You had to be able to put up a wall and just grind through it. But you know what? We sold B2B, and you build up accounts of people who would reorder supplies from you on a regular basis. Nice. And we had guys that were building up big portfolios. I ended up selling my business. I sold to my partners, started on my own, the same type of business. That was Greenline Data. And I sold that to my first boss. And the guys that were working for me, two of them continue to grow. Last I knew, they were making about $400,000 a year selling supplies over the phone. Just killing it. Wow. It was just crazy.
And what a great life skill, right? Just to be able to grind like that and, hang up the phone, put the rejection aside. Yeah. The next phone call is a brand new phone call. You can't, just like any kind of mistake or failure or whatever in life, you can quit, like the turnover you're talking about, or you put it behind you, see what you learned from it, and make the next phone call.
Yeah, it's you hit on the failure thing, and we talk in my business now. I talk about that all the time. Is if you're an entrepreneur, failure's your friend. I fail more than anybody, and anybody I know. I always say, guys, look, fail fast. Learn from every failure and fail fast. There's speed trumps accuracy in business. You're better to move fast, making mistakes and correcting and learning, than you are to sit there and keep thinking about decisions. It's kind of, I tell people the analogy, you're driving on a road going 60 and you come to a fork in the road. You don't jam on the brakes and go which way to go. You pick a way because there's traffic, and you pick a way, and then you evaluate, is this the right way? If you're wrong, you make it, you turn, head over back to the right way. And that's how business, successful companies should be run that way of, gather data as best you can, but don't delay decisions, make fast decisions, and then evaluate the results quickly and course correct and just keep going.
Yeah, not analysis paralysis. So were you doing B2B office supplies all the way up to 2002 when you started SecureIt?
I was, but I supplemented that in the late 90s. I got into the internet, early days of the internet. I started creating websites. I just thought it was cool. And I learned HTML, was writing my own websites. The company Greenline, we had at that time probably about 15 employees or so. It was a slowly growing business. It was a stable company. And I just was fascinated with the internet and with SEO and the fact that people could just find you. And I started creating websites, not with the idea of, let's make a website for computer supplies. I made like 30 websites for all sorts of stuff to see what would show up. Crossbows to supply, all sorts of crazy stuff. And I had a website for tape. You remember big metal racks that held computer tapes? Yeah. If you had a big business, you're backing up your computer on tapes. And you had to archive those, and companies had thousands of them, and they'd buy these big metal racks, and they're expensive to store all these tapes. I had a website, taperack.com, started getting SEO, so I came up as #1 in SEO, and Greenline data, we became one of the largest seller of tape racks and tape storage in the country. It was huge. That morphed into laptop storage when the HIPAA laws came out. We started looking at cabinets for storing laptops because this was all new. Nobody knew it. We had laptopstorage.com, securelaptopstorage.com. I had about 30 websites all kind of cross-linked. And it was through those websites that a guy called me and said, hey, can you store an MP5? And I'm like, sure. What's an MP5? And he goes, it's a little machine gun. I go, who is this? And he goes, I'm with the FBI. I said, I'm sure we can. Let me do a little research. And I just started looking a little bit and very quickly came across this realization. The military had a problem. They were transitioning from the M16 to the M4, a standard battle rifle, to the M4 is a much more modular gun, different like barrels, different stocks. There's a lot you can do with this. It's going from a rifle to really a weapon system. All the racks they had didn't work. So we started looking at weapon storage. I was not a big gun guy at that time. I mean, this was all new to me, but not being in the industry was a huge advantage for us. We kind of BS'd our way into a contract with, at the time, USAFIC, which was U.S. Army Special Forces Command, to do an assessment of why their armories were failing. We passed ourselves off. In fact, I came out and said, Tom Kubiniec, the leading authority on weapon storage and armory design. Nobody was out there. So we just claimed it. And they said, oh, this is the guy. Come on. And we won that contract and spent almost 2 years traveling and touring all the SOCOM or the USAFIC armories, all the Special Forces armories. We had access that nobody gets. What isn't, what are the challenges? And it was during that developed our cradle grid system during that time. And coming from the outside was a huge advantage. We use the term Home Depot development. I went to Home Depot and said, how do you store stuff? And that was the model. We looked at what's in the aisles of Home Depot, and we made a system that's compatible with a lot of the products in Home Depot. And presented it to them, and they just loved it. And that was in 2008 or 2006. By 2008, 2010, we were the guys, and it scaled very quickly. Then we got into Obama and the sequestration years with the forced military cutbacks. And our company, we shot up to 6 million, dropped down to 1 million, back up to 4 million. We were just going, hiring people, laying people off. It was just nuts and very stressful. And so about 4 or 5 years ago, we decided to go into retail and start taking our products and bring them to the consumer market. That's a much more stable market. It's a much bigger market. Gun storage is probably $600 million a year industry. And we're just the young little upstarts, but we're really bringing a whole different mindset to firearm storage in the home, and it's resonating. And we spend almost zero on advertising, zero on marketing. We're growing like crazy, and it's all word of mouth. Our customers, are our salesmen. They show them, hey guys, you got to check out what I got, man. This is so cool, because it's so different than a gun safe, and it's absolutely snowballing right now.
Well, I know I saw some pictures of it, and we'll have to get some pictures out on my website with this episode for people to be able to visualize this. But yeah, I love the story about just coming into something, taking a space, making yourself the authority. And it sounds like you went out with a very curious mind, problem solving, and had a fresh set of eyes on it and came up with something revolutionary. So what is different about the Cradle Grid, and what does it mean for the consumer market? What does that look like?
The gun safe industry, gun safes were designed back in the 60s, and they've never changed. It's a very static, stable. If you know what a gun safe, you open the door up, there's like a plate in the middle with all these little W's that your barrels go on. You might be able to adjust the height of that. 50 years ago, your grandfather hunted, or he had a shotgun, a lever action gun, maybe a couple of bolt action gun, and they were all pretty close in length, and they're all pretty much similar in form factor. You flash forward to today, and guns range from tiny little rifles to all sorts of strange handgun configuration pieces, up to very long shotguns. It's a lot of different lengths, shapes, sizes. Everything is modular. If you're in the AR platform firearms, you've got a lot of different things you can do with these guns. Gun safes can't handle that. Our system is a very simple tool, really, that allows you to build the storage solution you need. It's a back panel inside the cabinet with it's a cradle that holds a rifle. It's fully adjustable to properly hold each rifle. With our system, the cabinets are shallow, they're not deep. Gun safes are very deep. Ours are very shallow, so it's one row of guns. You open the door with one arm, you remove a rifle with one arm, you close the door and can lock it very quickly and cleanly. Everything we sell is fast access. Part of our mindset is how you secure and store firearms directly affects your safety, your security, and their performance. If you're going to own firearms, store them in a manner that gives you an advantage. And we talk a lot about like the principles of decentralized storage, the concept of locate guns in your home where it makes sense. A big gun safe is no longer secure. The idea that this big, heavy, 1,200-pound safe is somehow giving you security, it's just not reality anymore. I've got videos. I take it's a DeWalt cordless 20-volt saw with a modern carbide blade. The blade's designed for cutting rebar at job sites in the concrete industry, up to half-inch thick rebar, cuts through it quickly. I walk up to a big, like a Liberty safe. I cut it completely in half in under 2 minutes. I can cut a 12 by 12 hole in the side of it in under 20 seconds. This is America's top #1 selling gun safe. And I cut through it like butter because it wasn't designed for this. The security ratings of these safes go back to the 1970s, and they're rated to block access for, the UL rating is class RSC, residential security container, blocks access for 5 minutes from one person with a screwdriver or pry bar of less than 18 inches, a hammer of less than 3 pounds, and a small hand drill. That's a 1960s threat level. I take modern tools to a gun safe and I open them up like just as easy as you can. Now, our safes aren't any more secure, but instead of buying one big heavy gun safe with our system, you buy several small cabinets and you locate them where thieves don't look. Front hall closet, kitchen, guest bedroom. There's a lot of locations in a home that the guns are safe and secure, but you've also got fast access and places where you're going to want fast access in the event of a home invasion if you're truly concerned about safety and security in your home.
So if it's really about home protection, put them around in different places where you might need them, but they still are going to be secure. If it's from a theft perspective, you're saying you're not any better than the 5-minute deterrent, but instead of being 5 minutes times one safe where everything is, it's 5 times however many you got around.
It is. And also, the gun safe industry is crazy. You look at a brochure And they show this beautiful safe, dark maroon, all this lettering, you know, Wild Wild West look to it. And they show it next to a pool table, a big stone fireplace, and this it's beautiful room with, you know, you've got deer on the wall. It's like, you guys are advertising, you're going to put your gun safe right in the open. Anybody in that house says that's where the valuables are. It's crazy. Cornerstone of security is secrecy. Our cabinets are small, easy to hide. If you look at FBI crime data, thief breaks into your house, he's going to go master bathroom, master bedroom, drugs, valuables, home office, den, dining room, he's out typically less than 10 minutes, typically during the day. When you look at storing valuables, your bedroom is the least secure room in your house. It's where people sleep. With our system, small cabinet under your bed, one rifle or a handgun, front hall closet. I've got a pretty good gun collection, so I've actually got a cabinet in that closet holds 8 rifles, one of which is a defensive firearm. The rest is part of my collection. Kitchen pantry, I've got a small cabinet. I've got 6 rifles in it, one of which is ready to roll. It's an AR-15. Very fast access. I've also got an exit point for my home. In the event of a home invasion, I could arm myself and leave the home. Guest bedroom, it's the bulk of my collections in a closet. That bedroom is, you open the door, it's a made bed, a nightstand with a lamp, a chair, and a piece of generic art on the wall and nothing else in the room. If a thief is running a home, he opens the door, he's not spending any time in there. Time is his biggest problem is time. So he wants to be in and out quickly. Guest room, he's gone. That's where the bulk of my collection is. And you know, we've got a lot of information on our website breaking down in detail some of these principles of decentralized storage and turning your home into something that is truly defendable. You know, if you're living in one of these cities where they're defunding police and crime is going through the roof, it certainly is something you want to consider. Yeah. I'm fortunate. I live in a town where, you know, I'm not sure I lock my door that often. You know, I just live in a tiny little town that everybody knows everybody and it's pretty safe and secure. But I think that level of security is becoming more and more a reality for a lot of people now.
Do you have, so yeah, you just triggered a lot of questions for me in there, and some of them are probably very basic or stupid questions, but I'm going to ask them anyway. The one about do you have in terms of sales data for where you guys are finding people are buying your technology, just in terms of what you were saying of one of the drivers of needing a more versatile system than the classic, hey, everything's kind of the same rifle length and configuration. California, when you're saying like rifles come in all different lengths, and not so much out here, not so much in California. So do you find, is California an abnormality for you guys in terms of maybe not driving the same need? Are your sales?
Our number one state that we ship to is California.
Okay, all right.
It's I think it's more the urban population. Remember, our safes are all referred to as ultralight gun safes. Okay. We've eliminated the weight. We've got the same security level without the weight. And that allows for people in condos and apartments, a lot of condo systems and places like that. The homeowners association documents prohibit the ownership of heavy safes because in the event of a fire, and it's a 2-story, 4-story wood structure, they don't want a heavy safe breaking through the floor. So our system is very popular in these locations. We also sell where the firearms are as well. You know, it's our sales track firearms ownership, which is changing in America over the last year and 16, 18 months. Delaware has seen the greatest increase in firearms ownership. It's the state that owned the least guns per capita in the country. But after the whole defund police movement, all these things were happening. There are a lot of people who historically were anti-gun people looking at what's happening, saying, you know what? All of a sudden, it's like, wow, my personal security is my responsibility. I was under this mindset, you know, people are like, only the government, only the police should own guns. Well, that's great, except there's riots in the streets and your leaders are saying, let's get rid of police. Well, now all of a sudden it's back to, wow, security is my responsibility. Yeah, I do believe in America, you know, we have individual freedom, individual liberty. With that is individual responsibility and individual accountability. And it is up to us as individuals to, if you want to be secure, do it right. Get the training. If you're going to owning a firearm, buying your first firearm is a life-changing event. You will never be the same. You now have the ability to take another life very easily. with that firearm comes a lot of training, practice, and mindset. And you just got to make sure you're willing to commit to that. Or, I mean, if you're not willing to commit to it, statistically, you're better off not owning a firearm.
Right. Right. Yeah, I can very much relate to it, and relate to that, shift in mindset of wanting to take ownership of the responsibility to be our own first responders, to the best that we can, whether it's that type of safety, whether it's, medical trauma response, the stats on how long it's going to take for response from, whether it's police, whether it's EMT, whatever it is, those can be minutes that can cost a life or major injury. So why not be prepared, right? Why not be
Absolutely.
safe?
I encourage everybody, if you're going to own firearms, take a trauma course. Take a course in you don't need to become a full-on EMT, but there's a lot of good courses out there for trauma response, where you can potentially save someone's life because you're there and you know what to do in the event of a serious injury, cut artery, something something going on where this guy's going to die in minutes if I don't act. So it's
I'll give you like a spin-off of that. I took some trauma stuff, and after that I started putting tourniquets everywhere, in my car, med kits in my car, in my backpack, all this kind of stuff, right? So now I've got them everywhere. And the combat medic that taught us this course, we're sitting here in San Diego, and he's like, this dry mountain geography, rocky, a lot like Afghanistan. He goes, there's rattlesnakes everywhere here. He goes, I would carry that tourniquet when you trail run. And if you or somebody else gets a rattlesnake bite, here's what you do with the tourniquet. So this isn't a major arterial bleed. This is something else you can use the same equipment for. Like, awesome. I would not have ever thought about that if I didn't go do a trauma medicine course. Now I've got an extra bit of, hopefully never need it, but some protection out on the trails, hiking, jogging, rucking, stuff like that.
Well, it's preparedness meeting. I'll use the word opportunity. That sounds like positive, but being at the right place at the right time with the right equipment can save someone's life, makes you a hero. It's not just a random, oh, wow, look at that happen. No, you're prepared. You put yourself in a position to save someone's life, given a certain set of circumstances that are possible, very rare. Most people don't bother to take the time. And I don't know, there's a level of confidence you have in yourself when you know you have the skills and you have the materials ready to handle a wide variety of situations.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I'd extend it also to things like situational awareness, other forms of personal self-defense training. And to a degree, just like it's the same thing with decentralized storage or other things that are ultimately, they're not fail safes, but they're deterrents. So the harder a target, the less convenient you can be, right? Generally, thieves, criminals are going to look to be lazy or take the easiest target, the easiest way out, right? So the more prepared you can be, I'm convinced that not only does it make you a little bit of a harder target, there's just some kind of an air that comes with it of like, I look at that guy, I'm not going to mess with that guy. He looks like a little bit more squared away, or he's just paying attention, right?
I'll tell you what is interesting, because it's like the old thing with a bunch of people in the woods and a bear shows up. You don't need to be the fastest, you don't be the slowest. But I'll tell you, for all the listener stuff, if you're considering home security, you're thinking about maybe buying a firearm, you're thinking about the simplest thing you can do for home security: make sure bushes are cut back away from the front of your house, put a motion sensor lighting on your house, and put a video doorbell system on your house. They're not expensive, they're very affordable. That right there, so approaching your home, it's not hidden by vegetation horribly, where it's dark spots, it's fairly open. And the minute they approach, a light comes on right there. Right. They're going to move to the next house. They're looking for an easy target. They do not want a conflict. They don't want to fight. They don't want to be videotaped. They don't want, they're looking for easy.
Just move on. Yeah, exactly. I was just trying to find this quote. I found it for you. This was something that I saw from a coach and a friend the other day. When it's time to perform, the time to prepare is over.
Yeah. It's what is a success is when preparation meets opportunity. And you know, and in keeping with your, you know, mastery, I always tell, you know, I work with a lot of young people in the company, people trying to get results. And I always share with everybody that results come in big spikes. You know, you'll see like people from playing guitar to playing golf to in sales results. Some all of a sudden it's like, holy cow, wow, you just, and they show these big quantum jumps, but they don't know the preparation side of it. The work is linear, and you're working up this curve, this straight line of harder, working, learning, gaining, but the results come in big steps.
Right.
And don't, you know, trust the process of learning, trust the process of training, of working, and the results will be there, but you won't see the results as incremental as you'll do the training.
That's right. Yeah, it's putting in the reps. It's grinding it out, and then you see those stepwise types of gains.
Right. All of a sudden, one day all of a sudden you're if you're a runner, you're running and you're doing. All of a sudden, one day you're like, holy cow, I've knocked, you know, 3 minutes off of a mile run. It's like, and you're shocked, but it didn't happen overnight. But the results sometimes will happen overnight.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a compound interest effect.
Yeah.
So on the safes, in terms of being ultra light, do they come assembled or they ship and then you assemble them at home?
We do both. We've got our number one is the Agile. It ships flat. You assemble it. The system is patented. It's called slide lock technology. Again, very simple. And once bolted together, it's incredibly strong. You know, everything we do when you walk in our office, on the wall says innovate and simplify. If you know, making something, designing something cool isn't that hard, but making it so it's really simple and easy to use can take a long time and a lot of effort. There's a famous writer, I can't remember, he made this statement, I would have written you a shorter letter if I'd had more time.
Yeah, right.
And it's this idea that to get things simpler and smaller takes time. And you know, when I look at our solution, if I'm presenting to a military group, I always start off with, if you got a junk drawer in your kitchen, all the stuff ends up in that drawer. Typically, what do you have in there? You got a screwdriver, a pair of pliers, a hammer, maybe some duct tape. You keep the simplest tools nearby, because with the simplest tools, you can solve the most problems. When you look at our gun storage solution, it's extremely simple tool. Allows you to solve a lot of problems. And the lightweight aspect of what we do comes from, we don't use any drywall, we don't use any of the carpeting, we don't use any of these materials. Gun safe industry will tell you they've got drywall in their safes, lining all their safes for fire protection. It's nonsense. The drywall's in the safe to add weight because their doors are so heavy. When you open the door, the safe would tip over. So they fill it full of drywall to offset that weight. Now the doors are really heavy because they're marketing to you the idea that this door is secure. It's got all these bolts, it's got plate steel, it's got this crazy locking system. This door is a vault. That's great, but with modern tools, I ignore the door. I'm going to cut a hole in the side of the safe. It doesn't matter. But they're tied to this mentality, and it doesn't appear that they're willing to change. The bad side of this is the fire rating they talk about is a myth. If any of your readers Google the California wildfires and gun safes from like 5 years ago, there's tons of articles. There's not a gun safe that survived.
Okay, that was going to be one of my questions on fire rating.
Gun safes don't survive a hot fire. The way they test the safe, they load it up with sensors, temp sensors. They put it into an oven and they raise the temperature to 1300 or 1400 degrees, and they just wait. And if the safe goes 30 minutes before it reaches 350 degrees, it's a 30-minute rating. If it goes an hour, it's an hour rating. At 350 is where wood and paper start to burn. Problem is, a fire in your home, a raging fire, the air currents are moving at 60 miles, 70 miles an hour. They're just whipping in there. If you've got your oven, you're cooking a pizza, set your oven to 450, 500 degrees, put your hand in that oven. You can hold your hand static with no air movement in that oven for probably 3 or 4 minutes, maybe longer, and it's hot, but it's not burning. Put your hand in front of an exhaust of a car raging at 500 degrees, going 60 miles an hour. You'll have third-degree burns in seconds. It's the same thing. The convective nature of a fire, a 1 hour rated safe will go maybe 3 to 5 minutes in a really hot fire. It's a myth. The other side of it, though, is the odds of a fire in your home are almost zero. If you look at insurance data, and that's who drives all the data that fire insurance is, almost all fires, like 88, 90% of all fires occur in the kitchen and are contained within a pot. or contained within the oven. And it's just something burned on the stove. The reason there's a fire claim is because smoke damage. And they come in, they gotta get rid of the smoke smell. The bulk of all fire damage is smoke. Actual heat-related claims is extremely rare. And in most of those cases, it's isolated, it's careless, it's cigarettes, it's a candle. And usually that's isolated to one corner of one room in your home. Rarely does a home burn to the ground. It's just, anybody listening, call your fire department and say, what's your response time to my home? Give me your address. If you've got a paid firefighting force, response time is going to be 2 to 4 minutes. I live in a town with a volunteer firefighting force. My response time is 9 to 11 minutes. My house is not burning down. It's just not. Yeah. So it's, I don't worry about fire.
Our biggest thing out here would be, you mentioned wildfires, right? It's a real thing. Unfortunately, it does overtake some, some neighborhoods, some areas. In that case, it sounds like, well, you can't. There's no safe that's gonna.
No,
there's no safe that's gonna help.
Now, I lived in Chatsworth during the Northridge earthquake and the Chatsworth fires, and we had our house packed up, and they let the fires burn right up to our housing development, and it burned, and then they doused it all, and we were like loaded up, ready to roll, and we didn't have to. But wow. I spent 20 years in California. I know, well, if you're in those areas, you've got a big gun collection, safest thing you can do is get a Connex box, which is like an ISO shipping container, only smaller, and bury it. See, I mean, it sounds crazy, but they're watertight. They're not that expensive. Yeah. It takes a little bit of work, but if you're truly concerned about a very valuable gun collection, do an underground vault. We don't do them. We've sold systems to guys who have installed them, lining the walls with our stuff. But those fires burn.
And they're watertight. So if you didn't want to bury something permanently, could you just seal that up, toss it in the swimming pool?
I don't know if I do. Yeah, I mean, possibly you could do that. I'm looking more for safety, security, long term. An underground vault, walk-in vault is unbeatable. Nobody even knows. It has to know it's
sure.
there.
That'd be the ultimate man cave.
Absolutely.
What about from that same perspective? What about ammo storage?
Any kind of heat on ammo destroys the ammo, whether it cooks off or not. Okay. We sell ammo cabinets. It's punched steel. It's fully vented. So in the event of a fire, the ammo just burns off. We do see in the market, Liberty makes, it's called the ammo locker or the ammo can. It's a safe for ammo, and it is lined with drywall. And it's a solid, no venting. It's problematic. We're actually doing a test this summer. We're going to fill it full of old ammo and cook it off. It's my contention. I can't prove this yet, but I think it's going to happen that because they've got some insulation in there, because the way they built the safe, the internal temperature is going to go up, but it's going to go up more gradually, and the ammo is going to heat up a little more gradually, and it'll reach its critical burn point, a lot of it at the same time. And once it starts going, I think the safe blows up like a pipe bomb. Wow. I'm going to test that this summer. We've got the cabinet. We're trying to figure out how to actually set up safely to cook off and set cameras in place, because it's going to be a big boom when it goes.
I look forward to seeing the video on that. That sounds fascinating.
That'll be a viral video when that's probably going to be sometime in August is when we're going to do that.
How does you're openly kind of calling out what the industry has sold for a long time. You're innovating, you're doing it differently, you're doing it better. How's that look in your industry? Like, what kind of reaction do you get from these competing companies?
For the most part, we're pretty much ignored. Yeah. The industry is pretty arrogant. They're pretty interested. I mean, if you look at all the gun safes, and there's 20 different gun safe companies, more in America. Most gun safes come out of China. There's a handful of U.S. manufacturers, but once you open the doors of all of them, they're all the same. They really, I mean, there's some little nuanced differences here and there. Some companies with a few little interesting storage things inside, but for the most part, the industry just copies each other. And interesting fact that I learned, when I first decided to go into retail, my first thought was partner with a safe company. I knew nothing about this. I actually went and met with the senior management teams of a couple of large US safe manufacturers. And you get the corporate talk, what you're doing, boom, boom. Then they give you a plant tour, and that's usually with a production manager or some lower level person. And those guys tell you everything. Yeah, right. So I'm pumping this guy for information, and it was interesting. Safes are designed to look good empty. Gun safes are sold in safe dealers. There's no guns involved. So the safes are all, what they want is when you open these doors, they want their safe interior to look nicer than the competitor's safe next door. And that's what they're designing them for. They're not designed with the gun in mind. They're designed to look good empty. In fact, one of America's largest safe manufacturers, their senior leadership team is like 9 people. 3 of them own no firearms. Not one of them owned a modern sporting rifle. They had these guys, these weren't gun people at all. These were executives, corporate guys that run their business with a spreadsheet. And most of America's big safe companies are now owned by Wall Street investment firms. Sure. And it's all about generating that bottom line dollar. We don't sell our safes in stores for the simple reason our safes don't look good empty. You open up my safe next to a gun safe, wow, carpeting, leather, look at all this. Mine's like, it's a metal box with some brackets. when we're at SHOT Show or a big trade show, we're the only company that shows up where every single one of our cabinets is maxed out with guns. You go to the Liberty booth or the Canon safe booth, all their safes are beautiful. They're all empty. They can't show them with guns because their 36 gun safe only holds about 12 rifles. I mean, there's nowhere near the capacity. And people come to our booth and they're like, holy cow, look at this stuff. And we can't sell them a store that way because they won't put guns in them. Right. So that's one of the reasons that we are a direct to consumer business. Also, if you're going to sell through Bass Pro wants to make 40% margin on their sale. Well, I don't need to pay Bass Pro. So I don't want my customers to pay a higher price so Bass Pro makes money. We're trying to offer our goal is to make America safer, better prepared. If all guns in America were properly locked, a lot of tragedies would be avoided. It would make this place a lot safer.
Yeah, no doubt. That's super interesting. Okay, so I may have to come see you guys at SHOT Show and check it out. Otherwise, everything is through your website. Is that when you say direct to consumer, purchase through your website?
It is SecureIt. There's SecureItGunStorage.com is our retail site. SecureItTactical.com is our military site, and that's more designed for for military law enforcement community.
Awesome. SecureItGunStorage.com. And just tell me a little bit more. We were talking about process offline and how processes can show up in life for consistency of personal practice and how it shows up in businesses and quality businesses and cultures. And we started talking a little bit about kind of the mastery journey in whatever it is you focus on. How big is your company? Tell me a little bit about process by which you lead and run.
Right now we are, we're growing at 62% per year. Yeah, it's growing really, really rapidly. We are employee-wise, we've doubled number of employees in the last 2 years, and it's grown like crazy. Now we run our business with EOS, which is entrepreneurial operating system, and it's a method of running a company that a group of guys put together. It's based on a lot of business, it's very successful business books. They took all this data, put it together, and it's a method to run a company. And it all comes down to the processes by which you do things. And everything is structured in how we run our company. We have a process for everything, and all of our processes are documented so that when we train people, say, this is how things happen. And when I first saw it, it's like, I was intrigued. I said, it sounds like it's gonna be boring, but it's fascinating. When you really focus on the processes by which you do things, you get so many more things done. The next thing you realize is, well, I've got so much more time to think creatively about what we're doing. We run this company, our leadership, our management structure is, I am the vision, my position is CEO, but I'm the visionary in the company. Underneath me is our chief of operations, CEO, but his job, he's called the integrator. Below him is our senior management team. So I've got a person between me and senior management because he's the guy that makes sure everything gets done. And it really allows me to really, be doing shows like this. I project, my back's to the company and I'm projecting outward. Whether I'm telling story, explaining, talking about what we do, or I'm engaging with people in the industry to learn more, or just creatively thinking, working on the creative side of the business. The EOS management solution, the company runs just brilliantly, and I don't get involved in the day-to-day operations of my company. We're not that big of a company. People are like, that's nuts. How do you not? I said, I trust my process and it works. Everything, if I need to know, I know. If I don't need to know, I don't want to know.
I love that. I'm glad you said that, because I just heard about EOS for the first time about 4 weeks ago.
Okay.
And jotted it down in a journal from the event I was at, but it had not gone back to that. So I'm glad you brought that up as a reminder, so I can go look at that further.
I recommend anybody who's running a small business to take a look at it. You can implement it yourself. I strongly would recommend hiring an implementer to help you with the process. It's, people say that's so expensive. I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah, it sounds expensive until you implement EOS and your company doubles in sales in a year and then goes 60% the next 2 years. I mean, we are off to the races. And a big part of that is me changing from being a manager to being a leader. And as an entrepreneur, I've never worked in a management structured company. When I was a musician, I drove cab, I worked in a canning factory, electronics parts. I did every odd job you can imagine when I need to make extra money, but I've never worked in corporate America. When I got into business, every single one of my businesses grew to $5 million in sales very quickly. And they all sat at 5 million. And about 10 years ago, I made the realization that I'm a $5 million a year guy. Because my military business took off and stabilized between 4 and 6 million. And I'm going, why can't I get over this? Why can't I get past 5 million? Because I look back at my whole career and boom, every single company. So I said, it's got to be me. What am I missing? What am I doing wrong? I joined an organization called Vistage, which is a CEO peer-to-peer group, and started working with them. I really just started saying, everything I know is probably wrong. I've got to be open up to change. And it really came down to, a lot of it was process. Is the process. When you're a manager, you can manage 5 million because you're doing, basically a manager is involved in doing everything and you're hiring support staff to help. Well, when you become a leader, you're hiring people to handle these things, and you got to step away and not be involved. And it's sometimes tough to let go, but it's so rewarding to trust the people, hire good people, put them in charge of something, and say, you know what, get this done. If you have a question, call me. Any question, if you need help, let me know. I expect to see the results. So, is a week from Thursday good? Can I count on you for that? Great. And be done with it. And it took 4 or 5 years of work with me to really pushing, and we implemented EOS, and that was the final piece that really pushed me away from operations, pushed me away from getting my hands involved in the day-to-day running of the business, and pushed me above it. And it's worked really, really well.
That's amazing. Yeah, the hiring right is so important. And then obviously having quality processes in place and letting good people run good process. But I applaud the courage to just look within and question everything and change. And Vistage or other executive masterminds, that tapping into that collective knowledge. That saying that none of us is smarter than all of us, right? Setting the ego aside and tapping into other smart business guys.
Years ago, a friend of mine, who was driving a BMW at the time, said, when I just got started in business, a guy told me, you want to drive BMWs? Hang out with people who drive BMWs. And I want to become a business leader. Well, joining Vistage, I was the crazy goofball in that group. These guys were all serious CEOs. And I just learned so much. I remember an early meeting, and we're all sitting there talking. I said, guys, look, I'm the CEO of this company that's doing well. I go, I gotta be honest, I don't know what a CEO does. And they start laughing. I'm saying, no, guys, seriously, I have no idea what a CEO actually does. I'm a salesman, and it kind of, some of them registered, some it didn't. The guy who runs our group is Dave Natina. He's an amazing guy, toughest guy I've ever worked with. And he was able to really help me get through many conversations where he'd be going, Tom, stop. Think about what the actual question, he'd keep getting me to get out of the trenches and just, think about what is the big picture here, and get out of the these daily little things. And it takes time, but the processes by which you do things, it starts, your process, how you get up in the morning. I look at it now, everything breaks down for me. I can think about process. It's easy. I can change process. I can modify. I can improve. I can measure the results of process. I don't know how to measure the results of like mindset or what you're thinking, or, are you motivated? I can't measure that, but I know that when I follow my process, at 8:45, I kick in the front door and we just rock and roll, because that's, it's just kind of how I do things. And I'm not a slave to the I change them, but I do follow a process for almost everything I do. And the more stricter I follow it, the better the results I get.
That's you just reminded me of a guy who was on the show, I don't know, a year or so ago, who's gone and done some tough stuff, and very successful guy. And he said, mindset, that's all bullshit. He goes, like, and even for him, he goes, Simon Sinek, the Power of Why and all that stuff. He goes, this guy Tom Shea, he's like, why is the worst question I could ever ask myself, because for him, he says, it's not empowering. He goes, I don't care about any of that stuff. All I care about is I said I was going to do something, and so I do it. Right. So there's, we don't all have to agree, right? And I don't agree with all that, but I love that, of like, I said I was going to do it, so I'm going to do it. And then it's no longer a question of if or how or whatever. It's execution, right? So then it comes back to that process. Now it is, how do I go do that?
Right. And the beauty of thinking about just thinking about the process by which you do things, and just making some notes about it, is improving the process makes life easier. It's life is about getting from point A to point B. Whether, it could be just getting from 6 in the morning to 6 at night. It could be from, physically getting, but honing your processes, makes you a better person. Makes it just, so much of life gets better. And it's all, I guess with that, as you talked earlier, it comes down to, I said I was going to do it, so I do it. It's about, accountability. And if you can't be accountable to yourself, if you can't be accountable to others, you're probably going to struggle most of your life. And
let me ask you on the personal front. So your husband, your father, you're having a lot of success running your business and probably yourself with process. How's that go over at home? Is the family that structured, or are they going like, Tom, I don't want this much structure in my life?
I've made many a joke about structure and family are not, we have some structure. I don't try for it. The other side of me is, I'm a big believer in wild creativity. And I do believe that creativity is, people are born as a baby 100% creative. That's all they have is creativity. They have nothing but creativity, and it's beaten out of you. By the time you graduate college, you've lost most of it. And, simple example is, people like, kids say the wildest thing. Little kids say, just, it's funny, it's great, it's so innocent, it's so pure. Then they go to school for the first time, they make some comment that's out there, and everybody looks at them and laughs, or they get embarrassed, like, oh, I won't do that again. And they get the, oh, what are you talking about? And so in our house, I'm pretty big on allowing creativity just to be there. And when my kids were little, our house was a loony bin sometimes. It was pretty creative. It was there was process, but there wasn't structure.
Okay.
I like things to be fairly unstructured, but my kids are doing well. They're, when you have 3 kids, it's always, when you have 3 kids, if any one kid isn't with you, it's like me, my wife, and any 2 kids, the 4 of us can do anything. We all get along great. Doesn't matter which 2. Adding the 3rd kid, and all 3 of them turn to monsters, because no matter what happens, the dynamic goes 2-on-1 in some subtle way. And it might not be like anger, but it's just chaotic. It's
tips the balance.
It's just always funny how now I've got one just graduated college last week. I'm picking up my daughter in Savannah. She's in her 2nd year at SCAD, and my youngest is graduating high school in a couple of weeks. So they're getting older now. It's getting a little easier, but they're doing well. I don't push hard on my mindset for how I do things with my kids. I ask questions would be the most, and try not to put my will on things. I'm pretty strong. I mean, I've got a drive to do things, and I've got a way I see things, and I can be a bull in a china shop, just kind of with enthusiasm. If I really am conscious of not doing that with the kids, letting them figure it out, and just say, what do you want to do? What do you think? What have you done so far? What are you thinking? Okay, sounds great. If you need my help, just let me know. And my oldest is he's a pretty amazing kid. He's actually, I think he's accepted in a program. I think he's going to Netherlands for a year, and Budapest, Hungary for a year for dual masters in global political economy and Eastern European economy.
Wow.
He operates at a level way above me.
That's
but
amazing.
He's a point and shoot kid. He's just like, this is what I want to do. This is what I've done so far. This is where I can use your help. Like, okay, it's
I love that. There's so much power in just a curious question or a good question. Yeah. I find I love hearing about how well you're doing, and really just the creativity and the fresh look at things that have created the path you're on. It sounds like you got a long successful road ahead of you with SecureIt, but I like getting to know you here a little bit. I find it hard to believe that this is where you're going to stop. Like I'm fascinated to follow along and see what the next innovation is.
Yeah, who knows what the future holds? It's always I mean, I talked to my neighbor the other day. I said, I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up.
Right.
Because it's I've been on a very strange path when you look back at it compared to a lot of people I know business wise, and I love the random nature of things. You want to go on vacation? Let's jump in the car and head west.
Nice.
Where are you going? I don't know. Maybe we should end up in Banff National Park, or maybe we can make it to Alaska. Let's just go. And just, my wife and I, years ago, before we had kids, did that. We took a map of the country and put pins of everybody we kind of knew with no plan. We just set off and just drove around the country. I had a business partner. We each took 5 weeks off that year. And I just drove around the country and visited and camped. It was the greatest vacation. It was so unstructured, and all sorts of crazy crap went wrong, went right. But it was what are we all doing?
I love that. Last year, quarantine, COVID, and everything was such a disruptor to our social patterns that I often say, like, people I know that I work with, you talk about who you surround yourself with. Everyone I asked was thriving last year. And I think a lot of that is just how was it approached. And it was such a disruptor that it was an opportunity to do the kind of things you're talking about, right? Okay, now all of our structure was hit pause. So now we can do whatever we want. Let's do whatever we want.
It's interesting because now I got lucky a year before COVID. I was just frustrated with our computer system. And I just said, guys, look, I want this company to operate in the cloud. I do not want any servers. I want to be able to, no matter where I'm traveling in the world, log in and be part of our system. I want this thing all cloud-based. So a year before COVID, that was an initiative that we had completed just before COVID. COVID hit, and okay, guys, on Monday the company's running remote, and boom, we had a hiccup. We had to do a little work with our telecommunications, which we dialed in, but boom, we went remote very seamlessly. Now, up to that point, I've always been of the mindset that I'm the first guy there. I'm one of the last guy to leave. It's my energy that drives this company. It's, I bop around every day. I talk to every employee, and I'm just really involved with everything that's going on and everybody, and just keeping the gears moving. So I thought, wow, we're going remote. Geez, how's this going to work? The company runs so much better remote. We accelerated when we went remote, and it was a real, me kind of go, wow. It's not about me. I don't need to do that. These people get it, and their own energy and their drive is stronger than mine. And quite possibly working in the office, I was a negative, and I was actually slowing people down. I don't know. I mean, of course not. I would never do that. Right. But it's the company went remote, and we're not going back. I've got a business. I own a building. I got 3 people, and I go in the building. I still go in the office many days. My warehouse is now an auto shop. I restore old cars for my spare time. But we're not going to go back. And we're building a team in Phoenix. I've got people in Austin, and then around the Chattanooga area, we're kind of hiring and building cells because it's just easier.
Wow. Well, congratulations again on the success to date, and more to come. The courage, the innovation, the creativity. It's awesome to hear about a business that starts and grows that way. I know you got family waiting. We got a holiday weekend ahead, so I want to wrap up here and
right.
Be respectful of your time. Let's just wrap it up with for people that are listening to this and want to buy from you or explore buying from you, just and where to follow you, right, and kind of continue to follow this story. So. Website again was
it's SecureItGunStorage.com. If you just Google SecureIt, you'll see our YouTube channel, you'll see our social, you'll see all the stuff we do. I'm not big on social media myself. Our YouTube channel is very popular, and we've got a lot of great videos on there. We got so busy, and with COVID, we haven't shot a lot of videos in the last year, but we've built a studio now, and we're back to shooting videos weekly. So that channel will be growing up, but we still get hundreds of thousands of views on what we put out. We try to show up everywhere, like everybody else.
Yeah, perfect. All right, well, we'll get links to all that stuff, and especially the YouTube up with this episode. We know that you're out at SHOT Show and other events, and we're definitely gonna be looking for that YouTube video of the ammo safe that you set on fire.
Yeah, I'm sure that will get millions of views. If what I believe happens, that's going to be a big boom.
All right. Well, be safe with that one. Pleasure talking and meeting today. Amazing to hear your story. I really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.